Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I want to start off this video by stating the fact that my video, Darth Dawkins, the movie, has been on my channel roughly 10 weeks now. And to date, it still stands as being undefeated. I especially think that in this case, the silence is extremely deafening. The silence, especially from Darth, aka Gary F. Milne himself, is extremely revealing unto itself. His personal failure to step up to the plate with anything substantive speaks for itself. If you have been following along with my most recent videos, you may have saw another YouTuber, Certainty Exists 888, attempt to critique my position, but while doing so, he even gave me a partial concession, one that he did not want to elaborate on, even though I asked him twice to do so, by saying that I could have a point about Gary's eternal creator-God dilemma. What I want to do in this video is to basically present a compact, condensed version of my movie. Some people do not want to sit and watch a full-length video that is over an hour and a half long. So this video will provide a bare bones alternative. This video will do the same as my movie. I'll construct what philosophers call a defeater by using only two of Gary's own statements as follows. P1, God is eternally creator. P2, God is not eternally creator. That's it. Two premises directly from his own words. Let's get straight to the point. Gary's worldview contains an internally irreconcilable contradiction, and this is not a clever trick, a misrepresentation of his statements, or a case of taking his statements out of context. These two claims are both easily affirmed within his own theology, both on numerous occasions. On the one hand, God is supposedly defined as the eternal creator, the most fundamental, non-negotiable cornerstone of his system. But at the same time, Gary also maintains that God supposedly only became creator at the moment of Genesis 1, when creation began. The problem should be obvious. If God is eternally creator, then he never lacked that attribute. But if God only became creator at some point, then he did in fact lack it prior to creation. Both cannot be true. This represents a straightforward violation of the law of non-contradiction. And once your most foundational claim collapses into contradiction, your entire system is undermined. Now I want to address a common maneuver Gary uses when he feels cornered. He often says, well, in order to defeat the Christian worldview, you must present an alternative worldview, but that is an extremely deceitful and totally false claim on his behalf. The law of non-contradiction doesn't require an alternate worldview to expose a failure. It requires only that a system be internally coherent on its own terms. If it isn't, then it collapses without the need for an alternative. Think of it this way. If someone claims a square circle exists or that a married bachelor exists, I don't need to propose a different geometric shape to refute them, and I don't need to scour the entire planet searching for a married bachelor. The contradiction is fatal by itself. Likewise, Gary's system contains a square circle problem of its own. He simultaneously affirms and denies that God is eternally creator. That contradiction alone is sufficient to demonstrate that his system fails. So it's not necessary for us to step outside of this dilemma by coming up with a secondary alternate idea. We don't need to present a fully developed alternative worldview to expose the collapse of Gary's position. His own words, his own formulations of God's nature already generate a contradiction on its own so severe that his system disintegrates from within. Now, according to the law of non-contradiction, the most fundamental principle of rational thought, something cannot be both A and not A at the same time and in the same sense. If Gary's framework entails both of these claims, then his system collapses under its own weight. And notice the severity here. This isn't a minor inconsistency or a quibble about definitions. This strikes at the very heart of his theological and apologetic project. Without an explanation from Gary himself, it means that Gary is left holding two mutually exclusive definitions of God, one where creator is essential and eternal, and another where it is contingent and temporal. These two cannot coexist within a coherent metaphysical framework. So when Gary asserts that Christianity, or rather his version of Christianity, is objectively provable, this internal contradiction in his most basic premise undercuts the claim entirely. A worldview that cannot coherently define its own God cannot possibly serve as the foundation for proving anything objective. It can't even, under its own auspices, serve as a stand-alone, internally consistent worldview. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Please leave any questions or comments below.
No intelligent opposition. What does that tell you, folks? They're afraid, very afraid.